What's up, guys? It's Kector. I'm here with my beautiful girlfriend Stitch to tell her all about Arha, the Husky, and his dumb cat Shizun. All about this volume. But Stitch also read the volume,
Yes.
so I just made a PowerPoint recapping it for fun. For you. Well, tell us what this first slide says.
Sweet Jesus, Pooh, that's not honey. You're reading Arha Volume 7? Oh, my bones hurt a lot. Oh, oof, my bones.
Adventure, heartbreak, sadness, even more sadness. Think of the saddest thing ever and then think of Chu Wanning.
Oh, God.
That is Arha Volume 7. And I've also heard this isn't even the worst volume. So buckle in, kids.
I'm buckled. You wouldn't download embroidery.
So this chapter picks up right where we left off, and it's a very sweet morning after. They didn't fully bang because, Moran doesn't want to rush it, and he wants it to be perfect.
His dick is ginormous.
Yes. And they were about to be riding horses. So
Terrible
Moran's
combination.
yeah.
He's like, no,
Save
ixnay
yourself
on the ick day.
Save yourself. But the scene is so sweet. So Chu Wanning just has a robe draped over his shoulders, and he asks what Moran is working on. And Moran wraps an arm around him and kisses his bare chest, where there's a little scar there above his heart. And Chu Wanning is running his hands through Moran's hair. And just seeing Chu Wanning receiving such sweet affection and leaning into it is so sweet. Their first time was in the dark. Chu Wanning was like, lights off. But
Lights off so no one can see me sin.
yes. But now they're so intimate and affectionate and he's returning everything. It's beautiful. Well, anyways, what is Moran working on? Well, it turns out he is committing embroidery fraud. He is embroidering Shui Meng and the others' handkerchiefs because he wants to be the only one with a handkerchief embroidered by the real Shizun.
It's so petty, but so cute, but so petty.
So Chu Wanning made Moran a handkerchief. He embroidered a little flower on it, and Shui Meng was like, Shizun, I want one. And Chu Wanning was like, okay. But Moran's like, I'm getting the only one actually embroidered by him.
I just love that both of them are doing embroidery.
Mm-hmm. And there was even another line where Moran was like, look, I copied your style perfectly. And Chu Wanning was like, I have not a doubt in my mind that you were able to do that perfectly.
Which is so hot.
You're just so good at everything, of course.
That's incredible. Embroidery Chu Wanning is my favorite.
Now, my new favorite ship, kind of.
No, I'm with you on this.
Right?
Okay, there's something going on.
There is something
going on.
A ton of cultivators are all heading up Mount Jiao, hopefully to hunt down Shu Shanglin. This includes Shui Meng and Mei Han Shui. So, Mei Han Shui, who is normally a dick to Shui Meng, is being really nice. And offers him some ointment because he looks tired. And Shui Meng is like, what is wrong with you? You think we're close? And he says, you're so saucy today.
I love that. Ooh, you're so saucy today.
Your bully suddenly is kind of gay and nice to you. So that was weird. Multiple personality king?
I feel like he definitely has two distinct sides of him that don't really mesh. So
Yeah.
I feel like knowing Meat Bun, there's some fuckery going on. But also, we're so far into the story. I'm just like, what on earth is possible? What twists and turns are going to lead us into finding out more?
I know. All I know is that I am shipping them.
Absolutely. Guy who is antagonized easily. Guy who antagonizes easily.
Yes.
It writes itself.
Exactly.
He was simultaneously sprinting and sobbing, ass out, dick swinging.
Meat Bun's prose.
Poetry. Pure fucking poetry. Shakespeare could never.
So in this mountain range, it's very special magical stuff. So you are not allowed to swear. Well, this one disciple got a mosquito bite while he was peeing. And so he swore.
Honestly, mood.
And then a ton of snakes come out, and he comes running, simultaneously sprinting and sobbing, ass out, dick swinging.
I feel like that's just such a good expression to use anytime you're mildly inconvenienced. And there I was, ass out, dick swinging, sprinting and sobbing.
And this guy just fucking dies.
But snakes just...
They gobble him up and they rip him apart and pull him into the earth. And everyone's like...
My favorite part is that after that, Shui Meng and his dad just Are you kidding?
Yes, so Shuimeng and his dad cast silencing spells on themselves because they talk so much and they couldn't trust themselves not to swear.
They're like, oh, I'll fucking say it. I mean, fuck. Just dies instantly.
But everyone had watched him just get devoured by these snakes because Nangong is like, if we cut any of the snakes, that they are actually the dragon that is this mountain. Like, this mountain is actually this dragon, and it's whiskers. So if you cut them, they will not stop coming.
His whiskeys?
His whiskies are the snakes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
So they're like, do you want that to happen? Just let this guy die. So that's pretty brutal.
It's very, very Squid Games-esque.
Yes, yes. Mortal Kombat.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm. Why is that guy kind of like Robert Downey Jr.?
I see it. So basically everybody's worst fear comes true, and that is that Shu Shanglin did use the Rufeng sect's heroes' tombs to make super powerful chess pieces.
Uh-oh.
So the team of cultivators going up the mountain now has to verse these reanimated warriors from the past that are like really good at fighting. And one cultivator gets reawoken, and it's actually the founder of the Rufeng sect.
Uh-oh.
So this is like uber powerful zombies under the control of an evil guy. So he's so powerful, he could pulverize a boulder with bare hands.
I mean, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And Nangong goes right against him. And he isn't dying immediately, to everybody's surprise.
Okay, so he's like, everyone knows he should probably be dying instantly under these circumstances. So something's going on.
Exactly. So Chu Wanning is like, this guy literally made a whole lake by punching a crater into the ground. Something isn't right. My disciple should be hella dead right now. But he looks and sees that the meridians in his left arm were separated in the founder zombie guy. And everyone is like, who would do this to his corpse? And then Nangong has a memory of looking at sculptures of this man as a kid and being like, wow, this sculpture sucks. They didn't even make the arms even. And his mom was like, no, you don't get it. His one arm is so strong that it's larger than the other arm. So the statue is actually accurate.
So he was left-handed.
Yes.
A la Princess Bride.
So now in the battle, he isn't able to use his good, most powerful arm. And that's why Nangong did not die immediately. So the whole time, he's a zombie, just muttering, kill, kill, kill. But then he has these lapses in clarity, and Moran is like, there is no way that Shu Shanglin would be able to have full control of such a powerful body. Like, this guy is the powerful warrior, right?
Right.
So just when he has a chance to kill Nangong, he suddenly goes, you're Nangong. And then he...
But I'll be anyone you want me to be as long as I'm not fucking dead right now.
But then he stabs him. Oh. And he breaks Nangong's spiritual core.
No. I knew this, but like still, I kind of forgot, honestly. Oh no.
But then he regains consciousness again and is like, I shouldn't be fighting you. And then he tells him to take his bow.
That's cool.
And this is like magical shit, like out of Zelda or something. The earth splits open and this guy's magical bow appears. And he's like, shoot me.
Shoot me with a magical bow, just do it.
Yeah. But he says, don't allow my body to be used for what I most abhorred in life.
Prostitution. Sorry.
So then we get a flashback, and it's from Moran, and it's like a double flashback, okay? So Moran, when he was crazy and toppling the Rufeng sect in the other timeline, he went and visited the statue of Nangong Chenyin, which is this powerful warrior that they're currently fighting. And he basically was like, ha ha, did you ever expect your sect to end up like this? Ha ha ha. And then he remembers how powerless he was as a kid. He was told beggars can't be choosers, and how when his mom died, he couldn't even afford a coffin or even a mat to wrap her in. So he just dragged her dead body around and begged for help, but nobody would help him. Oh. And finally, he made it to the burial grounds and dug a trench with his own hands and put her, like, totally decayed body in there, and then tried to bury her, but it was just too much. So he ended up jumping in the grave with her and just cried and nuzzling her, like, decaying flesh.
It's amazing that he turned out as well adjusted as he did, being an evil tyrant emperor, honestly. That's fucked up.
Well, And then back as like Tashan Jun, he thinks of this moment and how now that he's so powerful, he would never let a loved one of his rot again. And also he recalls the creed of the Rufeng sect. I mustn't indulge in greed, resentment, deception, slaughter, obscenity, plunder, or conquest. And he's like, that's bullshit. I bet the founder of this Rufeng sect totally did all of that and then just got someone to make this up. And that's what I'll do.
Right? He's like, if you're just powerful enough to write the history books, it doesn't really matter because your legacy can be whatever you want it to be.
Yes. Zelda reference?
Yes,
There we go. Back in the modern time, now, Nangong Chenyin is muttering the creed that Moran was just mocking. Nangong Tse had shot him with the arrow, which was imbued with Nangong Chenyin's spiritual energy. And so, it is revealed that Nangong Chenyin had predicted that something like this could happen. He severed his own meridians, he ordered that his magical bow not be buried with him, and he put all his last spiritual energy into the arrow of that bow. And so Moran has a moment of like, damn, that guy really was a good guy, even though he was certain that was impossible. All people in power are bad, right? So he made this plan so no one could exploit his body for evil.
That feel when you are so insanely powerful and epic, you just know somebody's gonna fuck with you after death.
Yeah, honestly.
That's crazy.
But it's funny how even now, Moran's like, damn, like...
He was a real one. I was wrong.
Didn't think there were any real ones left.
Hopefully nothing bad happens to him. Oh shit, he's dead again. Oh no, a glass heart. Or perhaps a core.
So Nangong Tse's spiritual core is, like, broken. But he doesn't tell Yuangshi, who is crying like crazy over him. Even Moran is like, damn, I never saw her cry this hard in the first timeline. So Jiang Shi treats Nangong Tse's wounds and is like, he's fine. And he kind of has like a bro moment with Nangong Tse to not let Yuangshi know. Which is so sad.
Letting him keep his dignity as long as he can. What the fuck? It smells like oranges. Nangong Liu behind them.
This part is so oddly funny to me. So Nangong Liu, who is Nangong Tse's dad, has been turned into a chess piece, but he's acting weird. And they see him with this big basket of tangerines he's washing. Also, they last saw he was force-fed the lychee fruit, which is like a torture device. And he should be all tortured and stuff, but he's not. He seems fine. So he sees all the cultivators and is like, honored guests, do you wish to see his majesty?
Real quick, how do you feel about him washing the tangerines?
The first time I read it, I was like, do you need to wash tangerines because you just peel them anyways? But if they're all covered in dirt, you might as well be washing them.
I mean, I guess if you're serving them to His Majesty,
yeah,
that would make sense. You know, you're not gonna...
You don't want his fingers to get dirty while he peels them.
Or you think he's peeling his own fruit? This is His Majesty we're talking about. He's got a professional fruit peeler in his ranks. Me.
Oh yeah? You a big Shu Shanglin fan?
No.
I am. And you shall see why.
God, why do you have the worst taste in Danmei, man? No, I kind of like him too.
So, Nangong Tse is sad because this is his dad, and he is acting crazy. And Nangong Le bows, and all the tangerines in his basket fall out in this strangely comedic, off-putting scene. And he's like, do you want to see His Majesty? And everyone's like, who is His Majesty? And he's like, you know, His Majesty! And this is all super weird, and Moran ends up running ahead of the group into the hall, and Nangong Liu just, like, slowly picks up all of the tangerines and just kind of smiles, like...
This is a weirdly uncanny valley moment for everyone.
Truly. Okay, this is my best pun I've ever made. Spooky Moran Hell Dream.
Please explain.
Spooky Mormon Hell Dream is a song from the Book of Mormon.
This is gonna be so funny to like 3 people.
Can those 3 people please give me a comment down below? So, Moran ran into the hall alone. Inside the hall, Moran experiences something nuts. It's like on the right side, there are people who have wronged Shu Shanglin, and they are being tortured. Like, tortured. Someone is being ripped apart by a dog. Someone is getting stabbed over and over, but they keep healing only to be stabbed again.
Tag yourself, I'm definitely stabbed again.
And then the people on the other side of the hall are all happy, and they're dancing. Luo Xian is there with her family, and this is from the arc with the town with the tangerine tree and the madman, if you remember, all the way back then.
Okay.
Then he keeps walking, and he hears people calling Tashan Jun,
That's not good.
and they're calling him the emperor.
That's not good.
And there are these voices that are like, you know who you are, you know deep down you're bad, and all the crimes you committed, yada yada. Then the voice says, are you even so sure you died? You can't escape the past. Now you've awoken. This whole thing has just been a dream. Everyone you love is dead. Except Shui Meng, but he hates you.
Except for what? Except he hates you.
Literally.
Oh my god. That's so scary.
And Moran is like freaking out. He's already been having kind of issues about like, who am I? Where is here? What is now? You know? And he looks down and sees he is holding Bu Guai, which is like Tashan Jun's sword.
This is like his little like cursed doll that keeps appearing in his house.
Yes. And it's like now he is in the previous timeline. Suddenly, a servant appears and says, Your Majesty, the resurrection pill you ordered has been found. And everyone thinks he's going to use it on Shi Mei. But Moran, who is now in the past timeline, or so it seems, runs right to Red Lotus Pavilion to see Chu Wanning.
He's like, I'm back, but I can fix this. It's fine.
It's true. And everyone's like, what are you doing? Shi Mei is that way. Chu Wanning's that way. Like, what? And Moran's like, shut the fuck up.
Doing something.
But it turns out Chu Wanning isn't even dead yet.
Oh, that's good.
He's literally just tinkering away at something.
Oh, seems so normal and nice.
And he's like, Moran, what are you doing here? And then Moran just spends some times with him, and they work together, and they fix up a little automaton, and then they bang.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Which is interesting, because it wasn't a usual Tashan Jun Chu Wanning session. It seemed pretty consensual.
How odd. How kinky.
Because they fell asleep wrapped in each other's embrace. And there's a sweet line about how Chu Wanning is not loud in bed, but Moran doesn't care. He likes seeing him be in pleasure in other ways, like how his chest heaves or when his eyes glaze over, like he loses control in his own little Chu Wanning way.
That's pretty cute.
Yeah. This is odd. It's like a
weird amalgamation of realities.
Yeah. But then, still in Red Lotus Pavilion, he wakes up, and Chu Wanning is still there, but he says, it's time for me to go.
Uh-oh.
And then he's gone. And Moran cannot find the resurrection pill.
He was the ghost of Christmas past.
And Moran is going crazy looking for this pill. Like, he had it in like a pouch, and he's like pulling it out, and he's turning it inside out, and he's like, I know I had it. What's going on? And he's going fucking crazy. And then he finds Chu Wanning's dead body in the lotus pond, and he clings to it and says, Shizun, I'm begging you, please pay attention to me. Please, I'm the one who died. I died, Shizun.
No. Me too.
Do you know what this is?
No.
Okay, this is it's the thumbnail for the song It Was Only Just a Dream. You know the song?
No.
Yes, you do.
No.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Well, this is gonna be so funny to like 3 people.
Those 3 people, give me a comment down below. Luckily, he wakes up for real this time.
Oh, that's good.
Back in the normal timeline. And he's in Chu Wanning's lap with his arms around his waist, and everyone is staring at him.
It's like, this is hella gay, bro.
And Jiangxi had saved him. He had given him some medicine so that this nightmare would go away. And it turns out that the temple that Moran had run into was filled with this incense that sinks you into an illusion of your greatest fear.
Man, incense just be ruining people's day all the time. In that way. Also, Jiangxi, I think he's kind of hot.
He is. He is capable.
I love a capable man. I really do.
So it turns out the medicine needed to get Moran out of the dream was like insane. Like he needed the entire bottle, which is unheard of. which means he has a really deep-rooted fear. And that makes Jiangxi suspicious. Until this dream, not even he knew the scale of the terrors that lurked in his heart. His fears of Chu Wanning dying, of being questioned about his feelings for Shi Mei, his fear that his entire lifetime was no more than an ephemeral dream.
He has some darkness in him that is like beyond what a normal person could experience.
Yeah. But anyways, the medicine makes you cold, so he is shaking, and Chu Wanning gives him his outer robe. And also, he's like, oh my god, everyone is staring, and he was shouting my name, and I was holding him. They're gonna know.
They're gonna know.
Like, those are Chu Wanning's thoughts.
Yeah.
And it's also so sweet because he wants to be there and show affection for Moran, but he can't because everyone's here. And we get to, like, hear his thoughts about that. So that's the best he can do without being too obvious. And of course, Shui Meng is then like, what the hell were you dreaming about? You kept screaming Shizun. And Moran just says, I dreamed I killed people. I dreamed that I killed him. It was a little bit deeper than that.
Yeah. Shui Meng's like, oh no, that's pretty fucked up.
Yeah. But anyways, it turns out that Moran running ahead and being the only one that got nightmarified was good because they did not have enough medicine to treat everybody. And there was also a snake attack that was happening to the other people.
Oh my
so
goodness.
there are a bunch of people that are resting and getting medicine like before the temple. So the group is kind of split up now. And Moran is like, where is Hua Binan? See, we're all being a little suspicious of this guy.
The sage.
Hanlin the sage.
With the mask.
And he's like, he's got bitten by a snake too, so he's back there. And Jiangxi had a disciple that knew how to do the snake venom, and that's why Jiangxi could come up with the rest of the group and find Moran. And Moran finds this all too convenient. He tells Shui Meng then to be careful around Hua Binan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same.
Chu Wanning giving orders and kicking ass.
Oh my god, he's so hot for that.
There
Ugh.
is another attack. The dragon spirit is raising the dead and attacking people inside the temple, and they are trying to shut the doors, but the mechanism has been sabotaged, and it is chaos. But we get this moment where Chu Wanning is looking for Moran, and he finds him fighting outside, and he grabs him and shoves him inside and says, stop fighting, bleeding all over and still trying to get yourself killed out there, go sit down and meditate. And then he orders Shi Mei to tend to his wounds, and he is fucking pissed during this
Go
scene.
sit down in the corner and think about what you've done.
Literally. And Moran is like, Shizun, you can't put up your barriers here. It's too strong. It will drain all your energy in half an hour. And then he says, then I'll survive half an hour.
So freaking cool. He's so cool.
Like, imagine him walking away from an explosion after that.
Look, you can lead Shizun to fucking, but you can't fuck the Shizun out of the Shizun. I don't know where I was going with that one. You get the idea.
It's like if you needed to be reminded that he is fully capable and not like little submissive Wanning. Like, he is Shizun. He is Daddy Shizun. Then he's even strategizing with Shui Zhengyang, Shui Meng's dad, and he's like, there's a bunch of pussies hiding in the back. We need everybody to fight now. And Shui Zhengyang is like, what if they won't come? And Chu Wanning says, then they can sit there and die when the doors are breached. Maybe that will motivate them.
He's such a hard ass. I
Yeah.
love it so much.
And he's so sassy and funny and powerful and cool, and I love him. Now, suspicious.
Suspicious.
Another Hua Binan. Sus moment.
Oh my gosh.
He comes back inside and is super wounded, and Moran is like, here, sir, let me help your wounds. And he's like, no. And Moran says, it's just medicinal powder. Anyone can do it. And he snatches the powder away from him and says, I don't like other people touching me. Besides, you're not even a healer. You'd only cause trouble. Then Shi Mei comes and takes it and is like, allow me. And Hua Binan sees that he has a healer's pouch and allows him to do it.
Okay.
And he's so injured that he has to take off his veil. So finally we see underneath and we see his face, and that the top half is handsome, but the skin below his nose is burned in a twisted mess.
Okay, Silka, go off, queen.
So I'm like, suspicious indeed.
Suspicious. You can't simply have a scarred face in Danmei. You have to be evil.
It's true. Then Moran finds Chu Wanning, who had, of course, overexerted himself, and he gives him back his outer robe. And he still can't be affectionate because people are watching, so he gently squeezes his shoulders as he puts the robe on. All the love he bore him hidden in that fleeting touch.
Ugh!
Right?
Oh my god, I'm so into them.
And then they go into the shadows, and Moran takes his hand, and instead of pulling away, Chu Wanning locks fingers with Moran and feels his fingertips tremble because he starts thinking about how Chu Wanning lost his spiritual core when he fought him in the previous timeline. And Chu Wanning dotes on him and asks why he's shaking, and Moran doesn't say anything, so Chu Wanning has to assume that it's from the pain. And he does a healing spell, even though his spiritual energy is super drained. And Moran is like, "What are you doing?" And Chu Wanning says, "A little won't hurt." Of course, Moran knew this was a tiny amount of spiritual energy, a drop in the ocean or a cup of water scooped from the sea. Chu Wanning had given nearly everything to everyone else, and the fraction he'd left for Moran was just this. In the past life, he'd hated Chu Wanning for giving the world so much and himself so little. Back then, he hadn't known that. Though what Chu Wanning gave him seemed insignificant, it was all he had. It was all that remained, all that he could possibly give.
That is probably my favorite quote from this volume and maybe the entire series thus far. I think that just accurately sums up so much and truly like the core of who Chu Wanning is and what makes him so incredibly lovable.
And how there is always such a misunderstanding between them.
Yeah.
Suspicious again.
Suspicious.
Another suspicious thing is Mei Shui is fighting with them and remembers how he was acting differently with Shui Meng. Well, now he is fighting with a fire elemental attack when they knew he had a water and wood elemental core.
Okay, so kind of adding to this weird multiple guy theory.
Yeah. So then Shui Meng notices he's using a sword and has a holy weapon and asks him, "Why didn't you use the holy weapon during your spiritual mountain competition?" And he says, "I didn't want to." And then Shui Meng says, "If you used your holy weapon, you could have come in second," because Shui Meng came in first. And he says, "Third place is fine. First," he pursed his lips, "first place was too dumb."
But also, I feel like that's also something Shui Meng would say, so they're kind of on each other's level there. Human sacrifice! Dogs and cats living together! Mass hysteria! Yeah, that is strangely accurate.
So, turns out in this temple there is this human sacrifice blood pool thing. Apparently once a year, the Rufeng sect has to offer a sacrifice to the dragon. Hope this won't be used later.
I have a feeling this is going to become extremely relevant in the worst possible way.
Anyways, then Chu Wanning is like, there's something weird with Nangong Lu.
Yeah.
And Moran is like, yeah, he's acting like a child. And Chu Wanning is like, shit, did Shu Shanglin like revert his mind or something? And Moran just straight up asks him, how old are you? And he says, I'm 5. So that solved that mystery. And then he says, I pick tangerines every day. I bring them to His Majesty and wait for him to eat them. They are his favorite. By the way, His Majesty isn't feeling so good. His body is rotting.
It happens about once a month to some people.
But he says that His Majesty feeds him tangerines.
Okay.
And everyone is like, this makes no sense because Shu Shanglin was ready to torture the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Anyways, another snake attack.
God damn, someone needs to do something about these snakes. Why'd it have to be snakes?
Yu Wangxi offers to take on the snakes, and Nangong says, it's too dark here. I know you don't like it. I'll come back as soon as I can.
You know what? He's a good man.
He is a good man. And they are having these, like, more romantically charged conversations, like, ever since all the truth came out, you know? Then Nangong suddenly sees his mom. And she was made a pawn, but recovers some of her mind. And she chats with him and says her greatest regret was that she never hugged him and never told him that she loved him.
Oof.
Yeah.
Now she can.
But Nangong says that he knew. And it was a really sweet moment between them. It's like, oh, you're zombie chess piece mom regained her consciousness and was like, I'm sorry, I never said I love you. And he was like, it's okay, I knew you loved me.
It's nice that he gets that bit of closure.
Yeah.
I mean, his freaking spiritual core is fucked. His dad's all weird and 5. Like,
his girlfriend's a boy.
His girlfriend's a boy. Yeah, so, he can have one nice thing, I suppose.
But then, the blood oath with the dragon is about to break because Shu Shanglin is behind all of this. And if the bond breaks, that means that they're going to lose control of the mountain. And it's going to be really bad. So, this means they need to put someone with Nangong blood into the sacrifice pool.
I'm only thinking of 2 people here.
Yeah, and that leaves Nangong Tzu and Nangong Liu. Him or his dad. His dad who currently has the mind of a 5-year-old. So Nangong Tzu goes up to his dad to sacrifice him. And he's just like an innocent little kid. He doesn't know what's going on. And Nangong Tzu can't do it.
But it's so awful too because like his dad before mind reversion thing like did a bunch of fucked up things.
Yeah.
And
if anyone deserved to be sacrificed in all of this, it could be him.
Like any, it's so good because it's like the perfect circumstance, where you can see like, oh man, he wasn't always like this. Like, and what kind of person would you be to throw a 5-year-old middle-aged man into a freaking blood pool?
Mm-hmm. Nangong Tzu has a flashback with him and his dad. And his dad helped him up when he fell down and he just can't do it. So he walks to the pool and jumps in himself.
That was very upsetting to me.
Yeah. And he doesn't tell Yuangxi, thinking if he told her that he wanted to stay with her forever, that he'd be dragging someone down with him for no reason.
It's such an excellent foil for Ronwan as well, but oof, it hurts. It hurts a lot.
It really does hurt. Like, I understand that, but she's going to be dragged down either way.
Yeah. It's so good. Like, it's so painful, but also it's such like a hero's death too that it still feels meaningful. It was like the best possible way to go out when you think of like he lost so much, and even like trying to imagine the life he would have to live with no spiritual core. I'm thinking of like Jung Chung, for example, just like how much that would suck for someone like him. Mm-hmm. It would just be, I don't know. It would be really hard either way.
Yeah. So he full on dies. And of course, Yuangxi saw him moments before he sank fully into the pool. And her and Nao Bajin, his dog, and Chu Wanning are all screaming as they have now suddenly witnessed this.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the dog until the last second when he like removes the dog from his person to jump in. I was like, oh, thank God.
So Yuangxi is going through it. Mm-hmm. It's so sad and she can't accept it. And she's saying, like, murmuring, like, he said he would come back for me. And it's just really, really tough. And Chu Wanning is sat at the edge, now clutching the puppy, Nao Bajin, desperately trying to stay composed. Then he gets up, eyes misty, places the dog by Yuangxi, and it says, by the time he walked out of there, the mist in his eyes had become frost.
Such a good line.
Like, he was sad, and now he's ready to fuck shit up.
I love that. He's the best Shizun ever, okay? And I absolutely love when he decides that somebody's gonna fucking die for this.
Mm-hmm. They find Shu Shanglin, and he is not looking so good. He's looking like this.
Yuck.
Maybe even worse. He is half-rotting flesh and falling apart. He's offering his soul to a weapon for more power, and it's not pretty. Among the holy weapons is Bu Gui, Moran's sword from the past timeline.
Uh-oh.
Shu Shanglin starts preaching about karma and how he deserves this throne, and he is the one that decides what is just, and how he killed everyone and will use rebirth for them to come back as his pawns. And Moran starts seeing Tashan Jun's face. Like, this is really reminding him of his own madness and his own pain.
Which is a good, I guess, example of how far gone he was as Tashan Jun.
And then Moran asks him, why he isn't wearing shoes. And he says, "Don't you love it when Yu Wangxi asks you that question?" And Moran's like, "You've always hoped someone would notice your feet were bare. You hoped for someone to say," and that clearly struck a nerve because he's like, "Shut up!"
So good.
And Moran says, "Yu Wangxi is a lot like Luo Fenghua, isn't she?" And that, like, breaks him. And Moran says, "Where is he? You divided your kingdom into good and evil, yet you spared Nangong Luo, unable to kill him, and released him from torture. So if he's still here, there's no way you'd abandon Luo Fenghua. Has your rebirth finally brought him back?"
It's just so, it's like such a good parallel between like Moran's story too.
And this is really sad. He has this array, and the cultivators start attacking it. And he goes like batshit trying to protect his array. And this is his final thing, that he cannot bear to lose this array. And then Luo Fenghua comes out of it and says, "Best are those years you come of age, seeing the world's flowers astride a fast horse." And it was an array for rebirth. But Hua Binan, strangely, is like, "No, this is a corpse demon array." Even though Shi Mei and Moran are like, "I don't think it is." And they're having like a really serious argument over this. So at this point, I'm like, okay, this is gay. He clearly was in love with Luo Fenghua, or something like a super duper foil to Ranwan in the previous timeline. But then one of the cultivators attacks again and hits Luo Fenghua, and it was powerful enough to shatter his core. And he starts disappearing. And this is honestly so heart-wrenchingly sad. Shu Shanglin is screaming, "Shizun!"
Yeah. It's so interesting because, like, you get this far with everything that he's done, and you're like ready to kick this guy's ass, or let's kill him, he's a bad guy. But then, like, you see what he's trying to do, and you get the sense of, like, oh, this is, like, a really twisted form of love, and you want to see him succeed briefly. Like, he's gotten this far, just let him come out of the portal, and maybe he'll stop being so crazy. We could see why he's like this. But then you see all of that sacrifice gone to waste instantly, just from some senseless nobody just ruining everything.
Yep. Now, this is sad.
The backstory wasn't what I was expecting too. Like, their dynamic and everything was very different.
Now we get the full backstory. Back when Shu Shanglin and Nangong Luo were younger, and they just got Luo Fenghua as their shisen. Luo Fenghua was only a few years older than Nangong Shu and Nangong Luo. Like, he's literally 17 when their dad hires him. Luo Fenghua is full of bashful smiles and is trying to be a good teacher, but he's also a little nervous and clumsy, and quickly becomes great friends with these two. And it's less of like a teacher dynamic and more like they became this kind of ragtag group of friends. 2 years pass, and you get this image of a perfect summer with a little friend group, learning martial arts and causing trouble together, hanging out on rooftops and eating tangerines, teasing their shisen, who is a little more responsible than them, but still sneaks up onto the roof to hang out. It's really romantic in the sense of just like a picturesque youth coming of age type thing. So Shu Shanglin calls him Shizun Gaga, and likes bullying him. Even though there's a little bit of tension between the brothers and stuff, they're still really kind to each other. They share their candy and split their tangerines, and it's very, very sweet. There is a festival going on, and Shu Shanglin is running around barefoot at it.
Oh, this is gonna be formative.
And Luo Fenghua is like, "It's cold, why aren't you wearing shoes? Go put them on." But Shu Shanglin puts on his shoes, even though he calls him a nag. And then he gets really jealous when Luo Fenghua suddenly can't watch the lanterns with him at the festival because he has to go help his brother with his homework.
Okay, so you see like a little bit of being slightly too possessive. It's not like we're all equally friends here. He wants to, have a little bit more of Shizun's attention.
And Shu Shanglin also extra hates this because his brother is not nearly as smart as him and like needs help, which is annoying. He's like, why can't you just be smart and then I can spend more time with Shizun? But he throws a fit, basically, wishing that Luo Fenghua will chase after him. And he kind of runs away, and then he just like screams like after him, like, oh, he's so upset, thinking that he was abandoned. But Luo Fenghua actually didn't leave him. And he turns the corner and he's right there. So it was a really good, cute moment. And you kind of get to see that it's like not really like a one-sided love.
Yeah, it's a very... His feelings are so immature, but you see them for what they are. He doesn't know how to express like the concept of liking someone and wanting their attention and wanting to be with them and wanting to feel cared for, but those feelings are all there, manifesting themselves in all these little ways.
Yeah. Then Shu Shanglin feels all warm looking at his eyelashes and feels shame over how he feels looking at Luo Fenghua. And so they're back at the house together with his brother who's studying, and Luo Fenghua sings a song, and it has the line about the best years you come of age, seeing the world's flowers astride a fast horse. And the two brothers love this song, and they end up having a really gushy night together, even though they weren't at the festival. And Shu Shanglin thinks to himself that Luo Fenghua isn't his shisen, he's his first true friend, and being close with him even made him less envious of his brother. Because he got more attention because he was the firstborn, even though he's not nearly as smart as him. Anyways, they all end up doing wishes together, and Shu Shanglin is too embarrassed, but he wrote, "I wish for Luo Fenghua, Nangong Luo, and myself to be friends forever, sharing the same tangerine, splitting the same sweets, and climbing the same roof, from our coming of age until our hair grows white."
That is so sweet, and clearly not what happened. Oh, that explains a lot, though. It does explain a lot.
It's so sad. Like, all the fucked up stuff, like, rereading volume 6 of that moment where he, like, pulls him out of the infinite hells and makes him eat him. Like, yeah. Anyways, we're doing great.
The ring, evil ring.
And the moon.
And the moon.
Yes. So, we're back to the present, and now it is, like, glaringly obvious that everything Luo Fenghua had taught him, he had taught Yu Wangxi. And his twisted yearning, he'd wanted this rebirth so bad, and now it was destroyed, and he is not doing well.
Yeah, I would imagine not.
We get another flashback of him when he was jealous that his brother had become the sect leader, and how he had killed his father and taken the sect leader ring off of his finger before he could give it to Nangong Lu. So he knew his brother was going to become the sect leader. He killed his dad and took the sect leader ring before his dad could give it to his brother. This is when he starts experiencing this insane pain in the moonlight and finds out that there is a curse on the position of the head of the Rufeng sect.
Interesting.
So he usurped a cursed position. This is why Nangong Shu Shanglin, hates his brother so much. Nangong Lu had stolen his sword forms and blackened his reputation at the spiritual mountain competition. And this made Shu Shanglin go fucking crazy and plan this revenge plan and usurped the position.
Okay.
It's like his brother full on betrayed him.
Committed sword fraud.
Sword fraud, yeah. And also made it seem like it was the other way around.
Yeah. Oh, that's the worst.
So, because Shu Shanglin usurped the crown, there ends up being a coup. Luo Fenghua never knew about Nangong Lu betraying him, so he thinks that Shu Shanglin just went crazy and usurped the crown for no reason at all. So he is fighting against him in the coup and finds him on a full moon. And Shu Shanglin is in agony, and Luo Fenghua cries and tells him that they're no longer master and disciple, and that hurts him. Shu Shanglin tells Luo Fenghua to come with him, and there's something I want to tell only you. And he does come with him, which, like,
it's crazy.
Is crazy. And Shu Shanglin is like, "Wow, aren't you afraid I'll kill you?" And Luo Fenghua says, "You wouldn't." Right?
That's kind of hot.
I know. Then Shu Shanglin tells him about the curse of the sect leader and how the sect leader ring causes an illness in the moonlight. And he gives him the ring. He gives Luo Fenghua the ring and says, "Go on, give this to Nangong Lu then, my brother you care for so deeply. Go deliver this poison to him yourself."
Oof.
Then Shu Shanglin runs away in the dark and ends up at this little girl's house, the one with the tangerine tree in the backyard.
Ah.
So he is the madman from that story.
Oh my
in
goodness.
Butterfly Town.
It all comes back around, doesn't it?
And he also went on like a murder spree. Like he
Oh.
went crazy.
Okay.
But then he changes his identity and he planned to live his life that way. Until he heard that Luo Fenghua had taken on the position of sect leader.
That was crazy.
He never gave the ring to Nangong Lu. He put it on himself.
And that because when we were first hearing about what happened in the past for the Rufeng sect, it was always like, hey, Luo Fenghua was such a good guy. Why on earth would he do this thing that's seen as very traitorous and wrong, you know, to usurp the position?
Mm-hmm. But so he did it because he couldn't hurt Nangong Lu. He knew of the curse.
Man, all Shizuns know is self-sacrifice, eat
right?
hot chip and lie.
So, yes, everybody thinks that he is an awful person, that Luo Fenghua is terrible for betraying Nangong Lu, but it's really so that he wouldn't give him the curse. And Shu Shanglin never imagined that Luo Fenghua would do that. And he also never imagined that his brother would then fucking kill Luo Fenghua after all that and become sect leader after all of this.
You know, if people just wanted to communicate a little bit more, this would have saved a lot of people from dying.
Like, this is very much a Moran and Chu Wanning level misunderstanding.
Truly.
Like, Shizun is so good, I wish I could redo it for you, all type of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
Case file compendium.
What are we doing with case file compendium here?
Moran basically tells Shu Shanglin that he knows what happened and why he would use rebirth. Like, he gets it. And Shu Shanglin says, I just realized you're a madman too.
That is very how you... I thought of that too.
Only another madman would understand me.
Case file compendium.
Literally.
I look at just me by writing that, be like, got something there.
And so Moran is like, listen, I know a guy who knows how to use rebirth properly, which is Huazuai or whatever, who brought back Chu Wanning.
Right.
I'll ask him if he can bring your Shizun back, but you gotta tell me who you're working with. And he's like, I'll never tell.
Yeah. I was like, darn it, I want to know.
So Shu Shanglin is now about to die. He's too weak. And he has this tiny bag of Luo Fenghua's soul left. And he crushes it so that there's no chance that someone can bring him back without him. And he'd have to deal with the injustices of the world not understanding him. And he finally dies.
Oof.
Yeah.
Haven't seen something that fucked up since Yi City.
Oh my gosh.
Got some guy's weak soul in a bag. What could possibly happen?
Speaking of Yi City.
Hey.
But different, actually.
Oh.
Then suddenly, Hua Binan tries to kill Chu Wanning.
Oh my god. Shizun.
But Moran jumped in front of his blade and takes the hit himself in the shoulder.
Nice.
And immediately he's like, oh, Moran, how long have you suspected me? And turns out, Hua Binan has put these gross-ass bugs into everyone. While they thought that he was healing them after the snake attacks and stuff.
Oh.
And he's like, also, none of you can tell if you have a bug in you, so just obey me, and I won't make the bugs kill you.
I mean, if you just like put a regular bug in me and be like, you ate a bug, I fed you a bug and you didn't know, I'd be like, okay, don't do anything to me.
It's a little bit worse than that. One of the bugs like does kill someone and it's like horrific. You can like see it crawl under your skin and stuff.
That's horrible.
But then Shi Mei is like, actually, these bugs are attracted to fire. Light a fire talisman and you can see if there's a bug in you. And then Hua Binan is like, Shi Mei, you read my book? And Shi Mei blushes and is like, no, I just know these bugs. I haven't read your books.
Haven't read your books. I just know about bugs.
So anyways, Hua Binan is like, everyone, help me take down Moran and Chu Wanning.
How could he?
Which is like crazy random. Like, this is the first time there's been like a attack against them. Like, what did they do?
Right?
Like, we know as the reader there's some timey-wimey bullshit going on, but everybody else is like, what? Like, what? Oh.
Yeah. Does this have anything to do with, like, does this have something to do with who Shu Shanglin is working with? Like, are they working with the same person? Like, what is he on? I don't know.
But a bunch of people do turn against them because they're afraid of bug death, which, to be fair, looked horrible.
Fair enough.
So while they are fighting off a bunch of people, Shi Mei finds out that you can get rid of the bugs with optomancy. So Shi Mei has this moment and is like, oh my god, use optomancy to see if there's a bug in you. And then Hua Binan is like, Shi Mei, oh my god, I didn't think you'd know what optomancy is. And then he grabs Shi Mei. And Chu Wanning has been busy sealing this array. There's this array behind them, right? And he can't leap to his rescue
my god, it's happening.
Once again, he is put in this rock and a hard place scenario with Shi Mei. And Shi Mei says, I'm sorry, I know you remember the selfish things I've done. Even now, I'm not sure if I was right or wrong. I'm not fit to be Shizun's disciple, am I? So many times I wasn't able to choose righteousness over my life. And everyone is like, what is he talking about?
Like, Shi Mei, you're an angel.
Like, he had this monologue planned for being grabbed by the villain. But then they realize that he's kind of spitting facts, and the Shi Mei has played many roles. He's played Shui Meng's best friend, Moran's first love, and Chu Wanning's least noticeable, most agreeable disciple.
It's a hard role to fill, but you try.
But never really himself. And he admits that he never liked the food Shui Meng would make him eat, and he actually wanted to learn barrier techniques, but Chu Wanning thought he didn't have the aptitude for it, and he also knew that what Moran was going to tell him in Butterfly Town. And then he's like, I really envy you guys. And Chu Wanning starts crying because he wants to help him, but he cannot let go of this array or it's gonna it's gonna open and crazy shit's gonna happen, right? It's a cursed technique. Not cursed technique. It's a forbidden technique that he's like holding back. So then Shi Mei turns and shoves himself against the thorn that Hua Banan had been holding him hostage with and blinds himself. Oh. But unfortunately, seeing that shocked Chu Wanning so much, he lost control of the array anyways.
Oh my god.
And then it is too late, and Hua Banan is like, have fun with that array, it took a long time and a lot of people to make. And runs away.
Bitch!
And everyone is so scared, like, oh my god, what is gonna come out of this array?
The devil from the Bible. Do you work at Subway? Because you made my 6-inch a foot long. What?
Well, it's these black, masked, garbed cultivators that come out. More people under the chess formation. And turns out they can't leave because the door behind them is now closed and only someone with Nangong blood can open it.
Uh-oh.
But then Moran is like, I can open it.
What the hell?
And he says he is a 7th generation Nangong.
How is this possible?
And the door opens and everyone is like, what? Chu Wanning had stayed back, however. And suddenly a masked man comes out of the array. And oh brother, Chu Wanning is like, who are you? And he says, after so long, this venerable one hadn't thought the first thing you'd say would be so cold.
Oh my god.
And Chu Wanning is like, bitch, do I know you? And the man grabs him and gets really close, stares into Chu Wanning's face, absorbing every detail with naked greed. Like, naked greed? That's good writing. I like that.
That was good.
This man says, do you know this technique? You first taught me it at 16, then you used it during our final battle, and then you tried using it in bed. I wanted to fuck you, but you had had enough. And he,
like, sir?
He, like, immobilizes Chu Wanning. And then he drags Chu Wanning's hand down his chest and abs until it rests on something unmistakably intimate.
What?
And he pulls Chu Wanning into his arms and says, I still get hard so quickly when I breathe in your scent.
How confusing is this for Chu Wanning?
So hard it hurts.
Oh my god.
And Chu Wanning fights back and the man leaps back and his mask falls off. And of course, it is Tashan Jun.
The devil.
What the hell?
Oh my, I'm scared. I'm freaked out. I'm like, what's going on? There's a portal. He's here. This is like the worst case scenario. Like, how are you gonna fight him? He's like so strong and so evil.
Also, how is it possible that they are existing in the same timeline? Like,
yeah, where did he come from? Where did he go? Cotton Eye Joe? I don't know.
Now, this is a moment. Chu Wanning is now like, oh shit, this isn't Moran. This is the crazy Moran from my dreams.
The crazy Moran from my dreams.
Yeah. Then Tashan Jun says, I see my counterpart in this world hasn't turned everything into a sea of blood. And Chu Wanning's like, counterpart? Like, who are you working with? And he says he is using the space-time gate of life and death, which is a forbidden technique, and he tells him in another universe he has been dead for many years. He says, you had your revenge on me. I hate you. You left me there alone. And despite his words, he is clutching Chu Wanning tighter, and he still wants to devour his warmth whole.
Devour his warmth hole, more like his wormhole. Wow. Sorry. Got that
So
part
yeah,
out
he's
later.
like, I hate you, you left me. But as he's saying all this, he's like
Yeah.
holding him so tightly and wanting to devour him. So then our Moran turns up, and Tashan Jun is like, I know you knew I existed. You aren't so fucking dumb after all. And then Tashan Jun tells Moran that he is his escaped soul. And he taunts him, being like, even across the realms I had heard of your heroic deeds. I thought you wouldn't have remembered your past, but you do, don't you? And I'm like, across the realms,
What?
people are gossiping about Moran?
And like, are there like a bunch of fucking like world dimension travelers that we just don't know about?
There must be something like that. And then he says, did you think I would be so kind to let you bask in the light when the fire was gone from my world?
Okay, calling your Shizun the light and the fire.
It's a little bit gay.
It's a little bit gay.
Then the two of them fight. Evil Moran is using his sword and current Moran is using his whip. And it turns out they are too evenly matched.
Why am I not surprised?
And they are arguing over who deserves Chu Wanning. And our Moran says, you don't even know the truth of what happened at the Heavenly Rift. And Tashan Jun says, I just need him to be alive, to be mine, to have him in my grasp. I don't care if he's happy or if he hates me, as long as I can see him. It doesn't matter if he lives or dies, as long as he's in my hands. Nothing else matters.
Aww.
It's like, you're so close. You're so close to figuring it out, Moran. And Moran shakes his head and is like, he doesn't deserve that. He was the one who treated you best. And Tashan Jun says, do you know how absurd you sound right now? And Moran is like, also, you don't like Shi Mei. You like Chu Wanning. And he's like, okay, I will admit, he's good for a fuck. But he can't replace Shi Mei. And Moran interjects and is like, don't talk about him like that. And Tashan Jun goes, oh, you fucked him in this life too. And Shi Mei is alive and you're neglecting him? And Moran then says, so you explain why you're not holding Shi Mei right now. And Tashan Jun says, someone as pure as Shi Mei cannot be profaned. Chu Wanning is different. He looks so high and mighty, so formidable, so self-assured. But have you forgotten how slutty he looks when he's taking your cock?
I cannot believe he would say that. I mean, I can, because he's done worse. But, oh my god.
And Moran is like, in this lifetime, I never... And Tashan Jun is like, wait, you're joking, right? Have you really not? Mo Zongshu, maybe we're not so alike after all. Are we even the same person, huh?
He's like, I can excuse you performing heroic deeds across the realms or whatever, but not fucking Chu Wanning? That's crazy. We're not even the same person.
And then it says, one was a mad dog and one was a loyal hound. And there is a crash outside and a super fast figure suddenly steals Chu Wanning away.
I'm like, who the fuck could possibly be stealing away Chu Wanning at a time like this?
The both of them yell, but Moran yelled Shizun and Tashan Jun yelled Wanning. And then they both look at each other like, before looking at Master Hua Zui, who appeared. The guy who used rebirth to save Chu Wanning. Anyways, he says to Moran, come to Dragon Blood Mountain immediately. He says it in his head, so Tashan Jun doesn't hear. And then a whistle sounds, and Tashan Jun is like, oh man, gotta go back in the portal now.
That's my cue.
And Moran has super duper sad boy hours and is so grief stricken because he doesn't want to be Tashan Jun and doesn't want Chu Wanning to think of him poorly or know the truth or anything like that.
Yeah.
And he's like throwing up. He's so full of grief. So full of grief.
Oh my god. Stop.
Moran seriously has an insane breakdown.
If only Troy Bolton could understand.
Truly, it's really painful and it's written really well. And I loved this line where he's thinking of everyone who he ended up betraying, like Shi Mei and Shui Meng. And then it says, he thought of Chu Wanning and then couldn't think anymore.
It's so good.
It's just so painful. Like, it's truly his greatest fear. Anyways, he makes it to Dragon Blood Mountain, and in a stream, he sees his reflection, and then he smacks it. Just like Troy Bolton.
Okay, I get... That's funny to at least 3 people, including me.
And at Dragon Soul Blood Mountain thing, Chu Wanning is there.
Oh, good.
But he is kneeling.
Uh-huh.
And says, Chu Wanning had been holding himself together for years, but this time he only managed 2 words before sobs escaped his lips. Moran. And Chu Wanning is crying and shaking, and Moran pulls him into a hug tightly and thinks in this moment that he resembled Shisen when he was a little kid.
Because he's just so vulnerable and small. That scene hurts me so much because he has been holding it together for a long time, and like, think about how many fucked up things he's already seen in one day. He sees one of his disciples jump into a sacrificial blood pool, dies instantly. He sees freaking Shi Mei blinded and kidnapped, and then he sees his disciple / lover in a weird fucked up emperor form and doesn't know what to think about that. And all of that, he's held himself together for upon years of other angst and trauma, and it's just now it's too much. It's just too much, and he just cannot contain any more sadness and grief in him.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yup.
And then we see Master Huazuai is there, but he's dead. And Chu Wanning said, he asked me to come to Dragonblood Mountain long ago. He knew I wouldn't talk to him or let him explain, so he left me a letter, but I refused to see him. I doubted his intentions. And Chu Wanning said, I doubted him. And Chu Wanning had fallen apart like the snapped string of a bow. He shook in Moran's arms, trembling uncontrollably, entirely wretched. When someone who'd been strained to tautness half their life broke down, the accumulated sorrow was enough to destroy anyone.
We'd be killing me with these lines.
And Chu Wanning is upset because if he had come earlier, Shi Mei wouldn't be hurt, Nangong wouldn't be dead. And so Master Huazuai gave him a memory scroll, which had all of his secrets in it. And Chu Wanning saw it, and now he wants Moran to see it. And Moran says, if that man on Mount Jiao, if everything he said is real, would you hate me? And Chu Wanning says, just look at the scroll.
It's like the line about you. Oh my gosh. Yeah, and just on top of his terrible, no good, very bad day, his own Shizun dies. And thinking about how long it's been since Chu Wanning really could rely on anyone, and how, like, at some point he was a little Shasini, and he once also had a teacher / father figure in his life.
Well, we don't even know about that yet. We're about to learn about that.
We're about to learn about it.
Identifying wood. Yep. It's wood.
This fucking kills me.
This is nuts. Inside this scroll, Moran learns the most insane backstory ever. Chu Wanning's. If you remember back in the second book, Moran and Chu Wanning, as Shasana, go to Peach Blossom Springs Illusion, where this ghost king is attacking a town. Well, Huazai was Xiao Man from 200 years ago. He was the boy whose father died, and he didn't want the townspeople to dismember him because people were turning into zombies. Until Shu Sun came back, hoping he could fix him. But the townspeople dismembered his dad. So he turned against them and became a servant of the Ghost King. And that led to Shu Sun's death and Shu Sun's wife dying and eating their son.
Yeah. Good times.
And he thought back to Chu Sun's miserable plight, how he had only shown them kindness, and he carved out his own heart for the townspeople, and they had, in the end, betrayed him because he couldn't save them. Well, in the afterlife, Chu Sun didn't reincarnate because the souls of his wife and child were too scattered and lost. So Huazui, now feeling guilt, asked around trying to find their souls. And the Ghost King found out that he was trying to help Chu Sun, who was against the Ghost King, and banished Huazui back to the mortal realm and said, now you will be tormented in 9 hells for eternity when you die for real.
That's so good.
But he still had some yin energy, so he could go back into the ghost realm sometimes, and he'd check in on Chu Sun, and he'd give him high tongue blossoms because he knew that he liked them. So he has been trying to figure out a way to help Chu Sun, just ridden with this guilt. How can he give him back his wife or his son or help him reincarnate or anything? When he comes across the Flame Emperor's sacred tree. And this tree can bring the dead back to life. And it's also so powerful that you can kind of do whatever with it. So if he had a piece of it, he could make a new spiritual core, and he could make himself not go into the infinite hells. But instead, he used some of the tree to make a person. And this tree was a part of the holy instruments that were originally used to create the world. Like, it's infinitely powerful. So his plan was to carve this wood into the likeness of a young Chu Lan, which Chu Sun's son, giving his savior back his son. So he literally carved out a little guy and finished the carving right as the evening bell tolled, surrounding them in a twilight serenity. And in a moment of inspiration, he said, "I'll name you a name that means evening peace." Can you guess what that name is?
Chu
Wanning. He literally carved Chu Wanning out of a piece of wood. Chu Wanning was made from a piece of magical wood.
He's fucking Pinocchio. I've been slipping over fucking Pinocchio this whole time. Also, truly, like, there is a whole, like, the whole origin story of the world. You know, after reading Guardian and kind of going so in depth that, the tree thing seems slightly less random. I'm like, yeah,
Yep.
no, I know that tree. That's a tree that exists.
Yep. Well, I mean, for, like, Christians, it would be the equivalent of, like, talking about the snake that tempted Eve. Like, everyone knows that story kind of thing. Everyone knows that snake. Everyone knows this tree.
Everyone knows this tree.
Now, we get to learn about baby...
I would both kill and die for baby Chu Wanning.
Yeah. He was the cutest kid ever. That's what. Huazhuai mostly kept him in the monastery growing up. He told Chu Wanning that he found him in the snow one day and raised him as his own. But eventually Chu Wanning wanted to explore the town. And so they go out, and they go and they get cakes, and Chu Wanning is the most precious little boy ever. He always splits them with his dad and gives him the bigger piece because he's bigger and he needs more. And he's the cutest little kid ever. He runs around with like a lotus leaf on his head, and he loves singing little songs with his dad and playing games. And Moran describes him as the sweetest kid in the world while watching this. And Moran is kind of experiencing these memories as like a ghost. Like, he can't interact with anything, but he can see it all and feel it. And it's just like, it's very heart-wrenching. But then Moran realizes what Huazhuai was going to do with Chu Wanning. He was going to raise him until he was strong enough to bring to the ghost realm and then fuse the souls of Chu Shun's son into his body. Like, straight up just utilizing his body. It would be a sacrifice for other souls. So he would be no longer. It's like you have a baby and you're just using it for its parts.
That's so upsetting.
And Huazhuai says Chu Wanning wasn't alive. He didn't have a soul.
And then Moran was like, fucking bet.
Moran goes nuts. He loses it at this. Of course he has a soul, because the wood had a soul. Of course he's real. Moran goes insane. He's like breaking down. And because he knows Chu Wanning has a big scar on his chest. So does that mean that Huazhuai did try to merge the souls already? Anyways, up until Chu Wanning was 14, he wasn't allowed out of this temple. So he really didn't know anything about the world. And he thought it would be better this way if he didn't know of the world's sufferings, Master Huazhuai thought. He's like, he's only going to be alive for a couple years. I might as well make those couple years peaceful, right? But as fate would have it, they accidentally, while they're outside one day, come across a child on the road. A starving child. And Chu Wanning is like, whoa, what is this? And he'd never witnessed such pain before. And this child is so weak, he can't even eat the food that they offer. He has to drink it out of Chu Wanning's hand. Like, he licks up the food from his hand like a dog. That's how weak he is. And this child was Moran.
Oh my god.
Weak baby Moran who had just buried his mom.
Mm-hmm.
So Chu Wanning had saved his life.
That was the first time they met.
Yep. He licked food out of his hand like a dog.
You want to lick some food out of a hand, don't you?
Also, it turns out that Moran had never forgotten this man who had saved his life. Even when he became Tashan Jun in the original timeline, he often would look for his savior, and he donated a ton of gold to the monastery in that area thinking that it had to have been someone from this temple. The savior he had searched for everywhere to no avail was the very man he imprisoned and humiliated day and night.
Oof.
In this lifetime, in these 2 lifetimes, his greatest fortune had been to meet Chu Wanning, and his greatest misfortune had been to wrong Chu Wanning. Such was their fate.
I don't like that fate. Have a different one.
Like, oh my gosh. So, anyways, this meeting really disturbed teenage Chu Wanning, and he starts getting more curious about the world and realized that he was basically lied to and is so angry because all he wants to do is go out and help people that are experiencing pain like this child he just witnessed, but his dad won't let him. So he leaves down the mountain for 10 days and comes back and is like, we have to be helping people. We can't be doing this, just chilling up here in our temple. And his dad says, Chu Wanning, you can't even save yourself. How can you save others? And Chu Wanning says back, if you don't know how to save others, how can you save yourself?
The fucking rawest line.
Yep.
In all of Arha.
And his dad fucking bitch slaps him and says, if you want to leave the temple, go ahead. You'll no longer be my disciple and we'll have nothing to do with each other. And Chu Wanning gets on his knees and bows in so much pain because this is his dad that he loves so much. And it says the only person he'd never spared a thought for was himself.
Ouch. It hurts.
His dad says, if you leave, I need back what I've given you. I need your spiritual core. And Chu Wanning fucking cuts open his own chest then and there.
I'm sorry, how old is he again?
14. And then we get these really cute, fun flashbacks of him and his dad playing and having great times together and singing this little like nursery rhyme together. And then Huazai reaches out and stops Chu Wanning before he passes out from the pain. And Huazai knows that deep down, he knew Chu Wanning had a real soul. Because he wants to save people, because he doesn't like to do laundry, because he likes to sleep without the covers on, and he bites his chopsticks. He knew he was a real child with a soul. So this is why Chu Wanning's spiritual core is cracked. He did it to himself because his dad told him to carve out his spiritual core. And he was willing to do that if that meant that he could go and help people.
I'm just so upset by all of this information. And it doesn't get better the second or third time around. Every time I think about it, it hurts so much.
And he wakes up later, and Huazai just lets him leave with a cracked core. And he lets him go. Only 15. Free piercing!
Oh my god, it clears!
Then, in Huazai's memory that Moran is currently witnessing, he sees Chu Wanning rush in and give him a censer. This is like an incense burner. And say, I have no choice but to prevail upon you to help me. But this is not the Chu Wanning we know. This Chu Wanning has a pierced ear.
Interesting.
In the original timeline, Tashan Jun had pierced Chu Wanning's ear. And there's this kind of fucked up piercing scene, and Tashan Jun is like, now you belong to me. So Chu Wanning from the past has come to this current timeline.
Which is something crazy, and I don't know how it's possible. We're just jumping timelines now.
So let that sink in for a moment. Chu Wanning of the past timeline tries to explain to current timeline Huazai and tells him that there is a space-time gate and is like, please just trust me.
Also, how did you get out?
So pierced ear Chu Wanning is trying to prevent Moran of this world becoming like the Tashan Jun from his world. Mm-hmm. Because the Tashan Jun from his world is planning on destroying all universes.
Goddamn Moran destroying the multiverse.
So then he says to Huazai, what you need to do is make sure no one enters this cave and sees the truth with the censer, the incense thing. Except for Chu Wanning of this world and Moran of this world.
Okay.
Then Chu Wanning, earring, hears a whistle blow. Just like Tashan Jun felt. And he's like, I gotta go.
Interesting.
So the space-time gate thing seems to have rules. You have to jump back into the gate when the whistle blows or something. Mm-hmm. Then Huazai in the memory says to Chu Wanning, I couldn't bear to bring you this pain, the origin of his birth, while I was alive because I'm a coward and I hated the look in your eye when I hurt you when you were 14 and I couldn't stand to do it again. So if you're seeing this, I'm dead and you're alive and you're human. You always have been. Can you forgive me?
A little hard to process all of this when your dad is dead, but thanks, I guess.
So Moran is just witnessing all of this, and he's super fucked up because that was a lot to process.
Yeah.
But then when he looks over at Chu Wanning, all of his remorse coalesced into bone, his pity into flesh, his pain into blood. His desire to protect this man gave him the strength to struggle out of his fear and confusion, to rise up from the mirror of those memories. Slowly, he stood and walked over to Chu Wanning. And he says, Shizun, it doesn't matter if you're human or a sacred tree. As long as you're willing to have me, I'll always stand before you. And he thinks to himself, I'm low and dirty, and you're pure and clean. I can't stand next to you, Wanning, so please let me stand before you. I'll block all the blood and blades for you, all of it until the day I die.
They are both so self-sacrificing in different ways.
I also really love that Moran's kind of simplistic dialogue. It's like how his brain works. You know, he's like, Chu Wanning, I don't care if you're a human or a tree.
It's okay if you are a popsicle stick, honestly. Just please pay attention to me, please.
Content warning level insanity.
Ah, we've arrived here, I see.
Yeah. This involves a very graphic rape scene. Unfortunately. So, Chu Wanning stays in his arms for a little bit. He also just witnessed this truth, right? It's like he witnessed it, broke down, Moran arrived, Moran witnessed it, broke down, and then Chu Wanning says, I want to go in that cave.
What could possibly happen in the cave? That is worse than what we've already experienced thus far, right?
And Moran knows this is going to reveal the truth of what Tashan Jun had done and says, when you learn the truth, will you hate me? And then Chu Wanning says, what did Tashan Jun do? And then Moran is like, Chu Wanning said Tashan Jun. He didn't say, what did you do? And it gives him a thread of hope. Chu Wanning asks, was he a killer? A mass murderer? And Moran doesn't say anything. And Chu Wanning says, what about me? Who was I to him? And Moran just says, let's go in the cave. And Moran turns and looks at him and gives him a smile, exhausting all his hope and joy in a single instant, as though he would have no more use for them in the future. And Chu Wanning touches his face and takes his hand and says, I've watched you grow into the person you are today. I know you're not him. You and Tashan Jun are not the same. And hand in hand, they go into the cave.
And I feel like that's the last time things will be okay for a very long time.
So they touch the incense thing, the censer, and they're brought into an illusion, but it's not like other illusions. They can't move or speak. They can only experience what's going on in the cave as it transforms into Red Lotus Pavilion. Chu Wanning is sitting there, combing his hair with some attendants, and Tashan Jun bursts in, and he is wearing red wedding robes. And he grabs him, and basically we find out Moran had married Chu Wanning. But it was very much against his will, and he used the spell on him so he couldn't move. And you find out that Moran married a wife and a concubine, but he gave Song Chitong the cold shoulder and came to Chu Wanning instead, and is now calling him Consort Chu.
Okay.
And
So he's like, gay marriage would be crazy. Concubine, though, could do that.
Moran reveals that they have been sleeping together every night, so he felt it was only right to give him a title.
This is so fucked up beyond all measure, but it's kind of funny just to see his like thought process like be so simple in his deranged state. Like I'm doing you a solid, bro.
Yeah.
So are you happy yet?
So then we get a glimpse of current Chu Wanning's thoughts, and he is like, oh my god, Tashan Jun is insane. Like he is actually like, his mind is fucked. Like he's not normal. But he's also realizing that the dreams that he had been having of Tashan Jun fucking him are actually like the truth of this alternate reality that he is now experiencing. So in this current reality, even though the surroundings aren't real, the two of them, their physical bodies, are acting out what happened in the previous timeline, but they cannot control it. They can only experience it. So Moran grabs him and rips off his clothes, and Moran can't move either. Like he is also trapped in his body as a witness as well. And Chu Wanning of the current timeline is still a virgin. Like, him and Moran have not gone all the way, even though this Chu Wanning, Consort Chu, has had Tashan Jun inside him many times. Like, our Chu Wanning is like a virgin. So this is how their first time happens, and it's very awful. Chu Wanning can only remember how his Moran was the one that was like, we should wait, it will hurt, so let's do it properly when we have the time. But Tashan Jun shows no mercy, and Meat Bun enjoys writing these scenes. Even in Chu Wanning's humiliation, Chu Wanning treats Moran with an equal amount of haughtiness, so the best he can do is not give Moran the satisfaction of a reaction at all. And Moran is so embarrassing. He's like, aren't I so big? Don't I know how to make you feel good? And Chu Wanning says, fuck off. And Moran goes, you fuck off.
Like, this is not the tone, but it's so funny.
And
oh, no.
So it happens, like, Moran, like, enters Chu Wanning, and it's very painful, and it's very upsetting. And I'm like, how could Meat Bun do this to us? Like, we should have seen it coming because of how many times Moran was like, well, wait, like, I want to make sure it's good. Oh,
it was Moran was like, I'm gonna do everything right this time. It's going to be like, this is sacred, this is Chu Wanning. I'm like always gonna take care of him, always gonna love him like so reverently and perfectly. And it's like, you feel the same way. You're like, this is the only possible way things could even be a little bit right.
Yeah.
Like the second chance to just not ruin everything, and then it gets ruined for both of them. And like, I felt so bad for Moran just as much as Chu Wanning.
Yes. In this scene, we're mostly in Chu Wanning's head, but we do get glimpses of Moran being like, no, like in agony. And Chu Wanning also, it's like, it's sad because he's like, Tashan Jun is not doing any foreplay, but it makes him think about how his Moran and him would spend like hours doing foreplay and stuff. And it was always like very sweet. So this is the thing. The first time I read this, I think I was just kind of so emotionally upset for Chu Wanning's sake. I didn't fully understand what Meat Bun was kind of getting at. But there is a specific angle that Meat Bun is getting at here. And that is that while Chu Wanning might be helpless for this physical act to happen to him, Chu Wanning in the other timeline, he still holds something over Moran, and that is not giving him the satisfaction of this affecting him. So Moran finally has a solution for this, and that is forcing Chu Wanning to have the strongest aphrodisiac in the world. So that would force him to have a reaction. And this is the candlestick moment.
Now, when I first read this thing, I also was distraught and reading very quickly. And so my impression of what happened with the candlestick was a little bit off. And then how you explained it to me shifted my perspective enough where it was no longer just like randomly fucked up, but like actually like, oh, this is about Chu Wanning and how Chu Wanning is handling this situation in like a fuck you way, which made me feel slightly better.
Yeah. So basically, what happens, this is written vaguely, and it's like our Chu Wanning experiencing it and also being a little bit confused about what's going on. But Moran injects him with this insane aphrodisiac, and then the need to like fuck when you are under this aphrodisiac is so strong, like you have to have something in you to like soothe it. So Moran's like, he's gonna be begging for my cock. But what Chu Wanning does is he like grabs like a candlestick holder and starts like using that on himself to like ease the pain of the aphrodisiac, which is like forcing you to need something inside you.
Right. Once again, denying Moran the satisfaction of Chu Wanning desiring him in any way, shape, or form. It's like, even in this like most like, no matter how much he like takes away Chu Wanning's agency, he's still not ever able to get what he actually wants. He's still not able to feel like he has the upper hand. Chu Wanning is just indomitable in spirit, no matter what pressure he's under.
So to Chu Wanning, our Chu Wanning is like, what is happening? Now there's something cold and metal in me, but it's like soothing the desire that this aphrodisiac is making me feel. And Moran is just so mad, and I think it's written kind of funnily too, because he's like, you'd rather fuck yourself on a candlestick than me? What the hell?
If you don't laugh, you cry, for sure.
And so Moran yanks it out and then uses himself instead. And Chu Wanning now only feels ecstasy because it's like this aphrodisiac, and it's like he's getting what he needs, and the desire is so impossible to satisfy that he ends up getting a ton of pleasure out of it. But this was, like, once again, only after slicking his insides with half a tube of the world's most potent aphrodisiac was Chu Wanning willing to submit to him. And finally, Chu Wanning is what Moran always wanted him to be, panting and moaning. And Moran says, tell me you're mine. And Chu Wanning says it. He says, I'm yours.
Wow.
Yeah.
Poor Chu Wanning.
And Moran is like, tell me you need me to fuck you. And Chu Wanning does. He says, fuck me. And Moran goes nuts.
It's like, really? That's all it took?
And Chu Wanning is now even saying, like, faster, deeper, harder, like...
Okay,
this aphrodisiac really worked.
You know.
And for Moran, it's like this is almost a guise of like, oh my god, we're enjoying this together, right? And Moran suddenly turns tender and is like, today is our wedding day. I'm going to make you feel so good. You like it when I treat you like this, don't you?
Like, he's so ready to be Delulu.
Yep.
To have what he wants in any way possible. It's just like very interesting to see him even switch up, because he wants Chu Wanning to be compliant and to give him this, and he's just like fucked up and happily fucked up in a happy way. He's like, oh my god, this is the best day ever.
He wants them to be loving each other, even though it's like so twisted. So then we get some more metaphors of roots tilling soil.
Not my favorite. Never do that again, Meat Bun, I swear to god.
And so Moran had been saying, like, you like it, right? And Chu Wanning doesn't say anything. And then Moran stops and is like, you don't like it? And then Chu Wanning says, I can't take it anymore. I need it inside.
Oh, shit.
And Moran is so happy again. And Chu Wanning is now in his lap. And he's saying, like, faster, this is so hot. And Moran is being sweet again. And he's like, I'll give you anything, Chu Wanning. And Chu Wanning says, come for me.
Oh my god. Happiest day of Moran's life at this point.
And they do. And there's and there's this line where they found themselves immersed in this tumultuous ocean of lust because of the potency of the aphrodisiac, or because of the desires hidden in both of their hearts, unbeknownst to them, who could say? And that is such an important line. Normally, I would be so not okay with any kind of scene like this, but I just know they have these super fucked up feelings for each other, and they're just so unwilling to admit it. Moran won't admit that he loves him, and Chu Wanning won't submit to him, even though you see what it could be.
Yeah, and that's why the scene is there, because on an emotional level they were so close. Like, it could have been if everything went right, it would have been okay, and everything's so wrong, and you just see like the fragments of that, like their true feelings hidden in this moment. And it's not just Moran, because Chu Wanning did
Chu Wanning loved him so much,
wanted him so badly, and it's just that Moran, you know, turned out this way and just removed any and all possibility for them to communicate truthfully to each other. Until it was too late.
So I just love that Meat Bun kind of reminds us with that line, like, they both secretly really love each other. And like, did it feel as amazing as it did because of the aphrodisiac, or was it because they truly let themselves go and were fucking and loving each other? So then the scene dissipates and it's them in the cave.
I don't want to be back in the cave.
So they had acted all of that out in the cave, and it was Chu Wanning's first time. And it seems like when Moran came inside him, in the illusion, something actually happened in Chu Wanning's body. And now he has access to the Chu Wanning of the other timeline's memories.
I'm sorry. Hold up. Chu Wanning's memories from the other time are stored in Moran's balls.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's how it got transferred into him.
Okay. I can roll with that. Let's go.
And there's just this super fucked up line where Moran is like, are you okay? And then Chu Wanning's like, yeah, but like, pull out.
He's like, baby, I'm out.
And Moran had come out of the illusion a couple moments before Chu Wanning and like had pulled out, and like it's just like because it was his first time, he still thought that he was inside him, and it's just like, oh, that's awful. That's awful. So Moran says, I'm sorry, I still ended up hurting you. And the whole time Moran had felt pain during this and had been trying to scream in agony, but he couldn't do anything but act everything out. And he also got a little bit mixed up because he's like, in the depths of my heart, do I wish for this? Am I evil? Do I feel satisfaction with Chu Wanning's submission to me? Mm-hmm. And then we learn that Tashan Jun had actually kept the identity of Consort Chu a secret. Like, no one knew that this was actually Chu Wanning, his shisen.
Interesting, because, like, early on, I feel like the narrative he established in his own mind was that he wanted to humiliate Chu Wanning. Mm-hmm. And so, logically speaking, the most humiliating thing he could do would be to publicly, reveal that he's been degraded and is in this consort position. But he doesn't. Exactly. He still feels very possessive and protective over him in that way.
And so, exactly, Moran wonders why he hadn't done that, because he always fantasized about Chu Wanning's humiliation as revenge, but in the end, he had put on a show with no spectators. Mm-hmm. Last slide.
To the balls.
Oh my god. There was a line I left out earlier when they switch positions and he's facing him, and it's like his balls are almost going inside Chu Wanning. That's how deep he is.
Stop! That's horrifying! Oh my god.
Okay, so Moran remembers how when Chu Wanning died, he had struggled with what to write on his grave. He could have written Grave of the Emperor's former teacher Chu Wanning, but that made him seem like a bitter widow. So he makes it Grave of Consort Chu. And then he makes it Grave of Esteemed Consort Chu. And he laughs because only him and Chu Wanning would know that there was no esteem in his title. But then he's like, haha, yes, this gravestone will make him so angry, he'll have to come back to life and fight me.
He's fucking crazy.
And then you see just how fucked up Moran is and how much he desires and clearly loves Chu Wanning despite all of this insane theatrics. It's all because he wants him to come back. Mm-hmm. So all of this is to show that he is his soulmate and he's so in love with him. And it's the most romantic thing in the world and the most fucked up, twisted scenario, really. So back in the real time, in the cave, Moran takes Chu Wanning's hand and helps him get dressed and says, do you remember everything? And Chu Wanning's like, yeah, but I'm confused. It's a lot. It's a mess in my head right now. And then Chu Wanning says, Moran, Emperor Tashan Jun. And Moran says, let's not talk about it right now. Let's sleep and I'll stay with you. And Chu Wanning shivers. And Moran is like, I'm not him. I won't hurt you. Never again. Not ever. And it's like Chu Wanning's body had a natural, like, shiver to it now, which is so sad. And Chu Wanning has tears in his eyes, but he doesn't say anything. And then he finally asks, if you found out earlier I was the one that fed you, would you have spared me all those years in Wushan Palace?
And, it's questions like that make you wonder how easy would it have been for things to have gone in a completely different direction. It's that simple. It's like, this is truly like Shakespearean level tragedy.
Mm-hmm. And Moran realizes that in the past life, Chu Wanning had known that Moran was looking for his savior, but he never said anything. Chu Wanning had never told him the truth. And Moran is now about to cry. And then Chu Wanning starts crying. But then he notices there's a tendril of smoke floating out of his chest and into Chu Wanning's. Black one moment, then white, flowing from his heart into Chu Wanning's. And the black smoke was dissipating from Chu Wanning's body, gathering into a clump of darkness in the censer. And then Chu Wanning passes out.
I'm very curious as to if we'll get an immediate explanation as to what that is, because I feel like I don't fully know what to make of it yet.
Moran looks inside the censer and sees that a black chi had seeped out of him and is now a black flower. And so I'm like, it's flowing through both of them and it's coming out black. Like, is Chu Wanning taking his pain? Like, is he purifying him? I don't know. I do not know what this is, like a metaphor for, or physical thing for.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. Now they know the truth. Something might change. I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's the end.
Oh, what a wonderful place to leave off. I have thoughts. I have thoughts.
Uh-huh.
Just on the topic of like how much angst there is and like how dark Arha goes at times, and like why is that? Like, why is it necessary? Like, why do these things happen? Like, what is that adding to the story? And I think it really goes back to like two things that I feel like I've learned from a lot of other literature. Like, truly to compare Arha to some really incredible stories. But, for example, in the classic sense of, like, what makes something a tragedy, like the way that Hamlet is a tragedy, it's because the main character's flaws lead to their downfall. Whether it's something innocuous like indecision or procrastination in Hamlet's case, it leads to a bunch of people fucking dying, and then he dies and everything's sad. The ugly barnacle story. And Moran's flaws leading him to these dark paths and also leading him to make good decisions as well. It's like very much in line with that. And then also like these situations where it like so many like crazy things are involved, like incense that makes you act this way, or an aphrodisiac, that's like all these like weird altering effects on the body. Reminds me a lot of like a very old story. It's Tristan and Isolde, the love story. It's like Arthurian, that's how old it is, and it's about a knight and a woman who fall in love because of a love potion. However, this woman has already been married to the king that this knight works for. And so it's a case where two inherently good people are in an impossible situation. It's a forbidden love story. And the only reason it's possible is because of this like affecting force that puts them in this angsty position. Because then you have both. Like, it couldn't just be two ordinary people committing adultery, because then you wouldn't root for them.
Right.
But they're two good people with pure hearts who don't want to have the feelings that they have, but they are affected by these other forces like madness or a potion or whatever that makes them do things that they don't want to do. And that's what makes you want them to be happy but also want them to get out of the situation. And like, that is an extremely old narrative device that we also see in Arha. And so I just think that is really interesting to see the way that it uses all of these things that are in so many other great stories.
Meat Bun is an incredible writer.
She really is. She really is. And she tells us a story worth telling, even though it hurts so much at the time.
Oh man, you're so smart.
What on earth could possibly happen next? Like, is this the final arc that we're entering, even if it's a long one?
I think there's 2 more arcs.
Oh my god, like what on earth could possibly, like how many more terrible things can happen to Chu Wanning? I'm stressed. I'm mega stressed. Like, leave that man alone.
Well, if you guys enjoyed this book talk and you'd like to hang out with Stitch and I more and help support our channel, you could join my YouTube membership. Every Friday, we do Danmei game nights where we hang out and we chat about our favorite Danmei characters and stories, and then we play games like Gartic Phone or Frantic Fanfic, and it's a really, really fun community, and it's the best way to help support our channel because this is what we do full time. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye!